Welcome to another draw along tutorial in Tripp's art class. Today we're going to be drawing, you guessed it, we're going to nerd out here a little bit and draw a dragon. So for the dragon we're going to go ahead and start with the head. So for the head we're just going to kind of draw, oops, let me get a better pencil here. I like this one. You can go ahead and start to draw the head. We're going to kind of begin with kind of like a rectangular shape like this. And then this line is going to kind of come down and then back up. This line is going to come down and then kind of curve up like this. We'll bring this line in. This line will kind of be somewhat like a beak. Now, in this part of the drawing, we definitely want to keep these lines very, very, very light. So we are not really in the drawing stage, but in the sketching stage. So your lines should be ultra, ultra light right now. And everyone's dragon is probably going to look a little bit different, and that is completely okay. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and start to draw in the neck. I'm just going to draw a line that's going to come down like that. And then here, this line's going to go from thin to thick. And when you're sketching, you can draw multiple lines because you want to think of it as you are molding out of clay. Not that you're inking in pen, but molding out of clay. Okay, from that point, I'm going to kind of draw a circle, or more like an oval. I'm running out of room here, so I'm going to make this a little bit smaller for everyone, like that, so we can really sketch in the body. So of course your body might look a little bit different, you know, no two dragons are the same. So there's kind of my oval shaped body. And the key here, I want to remind everyone, the key is to be relaxed. You know, if you're stressed, you're going to hate drawing. If it has to be perfect, you're going to hate drawing. So just make it relax. If you don't like it, erase it. Just kind of like I did, and redraw it. That's why we're using pencil. Oops. Go to my eraser tool. Okay, from there, what we're going to do is put in some feet, the legs. So we'll just draw a line here. This will be the back leg. And a line here. And this is going to be very simple. Then we'll kind of zigzag. This one will come down, and this one will come down a lot closer to the previous line. And then we're going to have a line just coming out here. It's going to come down. And then we're going to connect it. Okay. We'll do the same, not the same, but a similar thing in the back. Have this line come down. This line will come down here and then go down that way. And then we will put a line going up and connect them. Okay. Now by making a lot of space between those two legs, what it does is it makes this body a lot wider in our mind. So you can actually kind of control the depth of the dragon just by the placement of the legs, by leaving a space here and having this height difference be present. So from there, let's go ahead and start to draw in the arm. This arm will just kind of make a little half oval. And we'll kind of make a slightly curved line going down, and then from there we'll zoom in so you can see. Just kind of have 3 simple dragon fingers. There's 1, 2, and 3. Okay, nothing fancy. This is just a dragon. They're not very fancy creatures. And then go ahead and add 3 more fingers. Actually, let's do this. Let's make them have 4 fingers. Can have a finger, the little thumb right there that we can't see. We'll show a glimpse of it right here. Because we want our dragon to have a thumb. I mean, it might need to pick up something sometime. So here, let's go ahead and draw in the tail. Okay, and then I'm going to determine where it's going to be thinner and where it's going to be thicker. So you can really start to narrow that down after you have the initial sketching of the tail. Like I said before, and of course I will say it again, it's like we're molding clay, but we're using pencil. So we can keep on molding and molding and molding until we get it the way we think it should look. The way we want it to look. And that's the cool thing about drawing is you have all these chances to get it the way you want it to be. Okay, so there's kind of the rough skeleton of the dragon. So let's go in and maybe start to put in some eyes right here. We'll go ahead and kind of like this will be kind of the eye line. Put an eye here, an eye there. We can change the eyebrows later. Nostril there and nostril there. And we can see our dragon slowly start to come to life. Here, let's go ahead and add in some horns. Now, obviously, there's multiple ways to draw horns on your dragon. We'll just kind of keep with the simple way. And then we're going to add some spikes going down this dragon's back. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start here. Kind of have a curved line. And you got to determine how big you want these spikes to be. Okay. And how stretched out do you want them to be? Right now we're still in our initial sketching phase. So these will most likely change, so don't worry about making them perfect right now. And maybe at the tail we can add in some spikes in the tail as well. Be like that. And then, of course, we can add in some spots, you know, stereotypical like dragon spots. But before we do that, let's go ahead and maybe smooth this line a little bit here. And then we'll add in some of the stomach detail. So here we have that, and maybe we can put some curved lines here. Kind of showing the inner stomach area of the dragon, and maybe we can add some depth by adding a little bit of a line here, showing a little bit of what the underneath of the tail would look like. So we can actually make those a little bit more curved. And then from there, maybe throw in some spots, some very typical dragon spots. These can really just be pretty much anywhere. Maybe I'll have one right there as well. Maybe on the tail. You can kind of emulate scales a little bit just by like having little half spots like that. And the pupils, it's going to give us dragon some pupils. Now some people like to, on the horns, maybe add in some lines there. You can do that. To me, those are kind of more like monster horns. And I want kind of more stereotypical dragon horns. Okay. Let's see. From here, the neck, we can kind of maybe pull this up just a tad. And this is the fun part of drawing, is going in and just really manipulating shapes, adding detail. Okay, from this point, oh, the wings. We definitely want a flying dragon. I mean, we don't have a flying dragon, we just pretty much have a giant crocodile. So for the wings here, let's go ahead and maybe have a line coming here. Maybe off of this area. And as you can see, I'm just kind of playing around with this as I go. And there should be another wing back here as well. Okay. So from there, I can go ahead and really look at my line work and really start to clean things up. Now maybe I want to make this more curved. Maybe have the head have a little bit more curve to it. I kind of want to play around with this line some more. Maybe I can do something different. Yeah, I kind of like the stronger jaw, like that. And this is where we really get to just experiment. And it's kind of fun. If you ever played those video games where you get to create your own character before you really begin the game. I'm kind of thinking of the game Skyrim, if you've ever played Skyrim. There's a lot of games where you get to really customize your characters before you begin. That's kind of what this is. A sign that you might be an artist is when you play those games, if you spend a long amount of time creating your character. Because if you do, you're probably a creative. And that's what we're doing here. We're customizing our character. But the great thing about drawing is the sky's the limit. We're not just limited to what the game provides us. We can do anything. It's our creation. It's our world. I'm looking at this arm and I'm thinking it's kind of it's a little bit of a fatter arm, so I don't want the dragon to look that obese. Now we are sticking with the unrealistic straight fingers, which in real life you really don't see too many people walking around with straight fingers. But then again, this is a cartoon, so we can get away with certain things like that we wouldn't be able to get away with if we were doing realistic drawings. So it's fine to create cartoons, but you need to know still that you're breaking the rule. We think about famous writers and great writers. One that comes to my mind is Ernest Hemingway. And Ernest Hemingway, he knew the rules of grammar. He was educated on writing, but he still broke the rules, which is fine if you're doing it for artistic or stylistic purposes and that you know the rule that you're breaking. Once again, an example of that are these fingers, which in real life, fingers would be twisted or turned or curved in. But in the sake of this fun cartoon stylistic looking drawing, we can break the rule. We can break the realism. Now, I didn't want to spend too much time on every one of these little spikes prior, because what if I changed the direction of the tail? What if I changed something? So now I'm really starting to sketch out these lines, so when I go back and ink them, I'm inking the exact lines that I want. Let me clean this up a little bit so we can see it better. So right now the dragon doesn't even have any teeth, so let's go ahead and give him some teeth as well. And maybe we can have we give his nostrils a little more depth. And we can have maybe some flame coming out of his mouth. Okay. So stepping back here and looking at this dragon, Let's see if there's anything else I want to add. And right here, I want to show that this tail is curving. So I can do that by actually showing the base of the spikes. There we go. Making a little change there. And we'll go ahead and move him down so he's centered. And we'll go ahead and stop right there. We'll take a little break. And there is the sketching, the finished sketching, loose sketching of our cartoony dragon. We're back here to do some inking and coloring of our dragon. So what I'm going to do is create a new layer here in Procreate. I'm going to erase down or change the opacity. You could erase down your previous lines, maybe using a kneaded eraser. That way they're not so bright. And then I'm going to decide on which way do I want to ink this. Now I'm going to ink it just in a style of a dark pencil. Okay, I think that might look neat for this drawing. So I'll just go ahead and begin. And you can do this by taking your wooden pencil, doling it down a little bit, using a number 2 wooden pencil if you have one, and just going through and adding some darker, thicker lines. Now it's kind of like inking, but we're using pencil. This process does take a long time. So what I always encourage my students to do is have a nice set list of music. Of course, you need music that's going to be calming, something that's going to help make your art better and not be a distraction. And what's neat about inking with regular pencil is if you make a mistake, you can go back and fix it. Now with modern technology, what you can do with inking is, if you don't like to ink with pen, you can actually just ink as I'm doing here with pencil, scan your artwork, bring it into a program like Photoshop if you're originally drawing traditionally, and then you can just change the black lines to make them darker in the editing software of Photoshop. I heard about some comic book artists doing that when they don't like to use ink pen. Still, just like with ink pen, I want to have some line with variety, some variety in my line work, and I can just do that by going over certain areas to make them darker, just as I would with a pen. And as you can see, I'm turning my digital paper a whole lot. And you can do that if you're creating traditionally easily just by turning your sketchbook. I'll go ahead and draw on the second wing, which is going to be kind of hidden. Always want to zoom out, see how it's looking. If you don't have good line control with your hand, that's something that's going to increase in time. So don't be too hard on yourself. You'll get better the more you draw. I look back at some of my line work and it's just horrific. I thought I was making nice curved lines and they were horrible looking. So you do improve in time. But it does take time, just like anything in life. Had a student before, he really was interested in animation. He thought it was so awesome and he wanted to be an animator, but he just kind of wanted to magically be an animator. He didn't want to put in the time to learn how to draw. He thought that you could just learn a few computer animation programs and magically make cartoons. And I would tell him over and over again, like, hey man, like, if you really want to be an animator, you got to learn how to draw. You got to really focus on the basics and spend many hours and years just learning how to draw. He didn't really like that answer, and I'm not really for sure he continued to improve. He just wanted to draw a few things his own style and ignore everything else. But what's neat about drawing is that even if you haven't put in the hours and years of the typical 10,000 hours, you can still draw, and it's still okay. You can still make art. If you're trying to draw a dragon and it doesn't look like a stereotypical dragon, it's okay. That's allowed. If someone comes up and says, that doesn't look right, you don't need those people in your life. It doesn't have to look right. It's your artwork. Make it the way you want it to be. Okay, I'm looking at what I have so far. I think I can erase the bottom layer, so I'll go ahead and do that now. And now I'm going to really, I guess I could leave it like this, but I really want to focus on my line with variety. Really working on some of these lines to add some more weight to them. Now, if you're kind of new to art, it might be kind of a weird concept, like how can a line have weight? But it can. By making lines thicker in some areas, you're kind of giving them the appearance of weighing down more in certain parts. So on the spikes right here, I'm adding a little bit of weight to the bottom part because that would be the part that wouldn't be as sharp in this dragon that I'm drawing. Typically, thinner lines might look a little bit more sharp. And then I'm looking at some of the main outlines of the dragon. Some of these lines right here need to have a little bit more weight to them. So you don't want to make all of your lines thick, but you do want to find some that can take advantage of being a little bit heavier. Maybe the bottom jaw right here could have a little bit more weight to it. And then I'll color in the nostrils. Maybe I can add in a little bit more detail to the fire here. Like that. Maybe even the flames, I can add more weight to maybe the bottoms of the flames. And I'll step back and kind of look at my dragon here and think, I think it's okay. I think we can add a little bit more weight to the bottom of the tail. If you add a little bit too much, just kind of go back and erase a little bit. Maybe I can add in a little bit more detail in the wings. Let's see, maybe a little bit more weight right here. There we go. And now we can go ahead and move on to the coloring portion of the dragon. So I'm going to do a nice little trick here. I'm going to go to this layer, and for those of you who have Procreate, this is an excellent way to do digital painting. If not, you can just color it in at home. So we go to reference, make this a reference, take the layer underneath it, and now we can fill in the area here. So maybe I might just start with like a light gray. And I'm moving my pencil back and forth. Just gonna fill in my character. Now here I'm not concerned about the color so much as to just filling in the space. This part is just easier for me to color it in. Some parts is just maybe faster to color it in if you want to, or if you're eager to get that pencil moving on the paper. So as you can see, I'm moving the pencil to the left or right of the screen to change the threshold. I want it to fill in as much as possible without going to the rest of the drawing. Now, of course, at home, you definitely don't want to do this. You don't want to color in your whole entire drawing gray. This is a digital way to do it. Now, since I have everything on this layer, I can go ahead and add an alpha lock. So now, whatever I color right here, I'm going to create another one just in case I mess it up. Whatever I color right here is going to stay within this area. So I can decide now on a color for the dragon. And I like blue. You guys know I'm the creator of the blue duck. So let's go ahead and maybe make this kind of a blue dragon. We're going to choose kind of a fun gouache here. Let's see how that looks. I think that works. And I'm going to go ahead and begin to color in the dragon. I'm kind of doing it this way too because it's fun to color. There we go. It can be a little bit messy too. Choose some darker values. So I can continue to be kind of messy here and just kind of really have fun and just play around with how I want this dragon to look. I can really lower the opacity and just kind of blend. Okay, now I'm not going to be a perfectionist about this. I'm just kind of doing a quick fun sketch. So we'll go ahead and stop there with that part, and then I'll go ahead and move on to the areas that I want to be white. Pull the opacity up really high and I'll go to a different pen. Oops. Oops. Too big. Now there's several ways to color in these spikes. I mean, I could just go like that too. Sometimes it's fun just to color them in. It's relaxing to color sometimes. So I like to try to take advantage of that. Now I'm going to take a look at those, and I really want to add value to them individually, and I want to kind of do it in a very freeing way here. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. I'm going to set this one as the reference. And with these ones, I'm going to make these just like a little tint of yellow. Let's see. Oops. Yeah, that's. I'm looking at this yellow and it has a little bit too much green in it for me. Actually, we'll just stay on. Well, no, let's do this. Yeah. Now I can go through and get a better brush. Kind of lighten these up a little bit. Oops, and I'm on the wrong layer. That's where you always want to check yourself. Oops. Yeah, I kind of messed up my layer, so that's where you really have to be careful when you're drawing here. So I'm just going to have to be a little bit more cautious now. Oops. Okay, I'll go ahead and move on to the teeth. A little bit of a yellow tint to them. A little bit of value. Let's make this a dark blue. For the horns, let's do kind of a tan color. You do the same thing with the wings. And we'll do the same thing with the stomach as well. And we're going to have to change brushes here. We need something a little bit more solid. Even more solid than that. Here we go. We're going to get a little bit of a darker value. let's go ahead and work with the fire. I'm going to do a little trick here. I'm going to draw this part on a different layer. I don't know how that happened. Okay, and I'm going to step back here. Maybe I want to add a little bit more value here. Let me go back to my original layer. Maybe for the eyes, I want to go a little bit darker. And let's give this dragon green eyes. I don't know where that little spot came from, so let me go ahead and fix this too. Now we have these little spots on the dragon. Let's go ahead and fill those in. And we still have the bottom of the tail. I want to go a little bit darker. And I'll step back a little bit, look at the dragon, and I think that's okay for a quick little cartoon dragon drawing here. So I'm going to put this layer on the very bottom. You get some gray. Make a new layer, yep. Let's do this. Okay, and there's a hard drawing for today, our cartoon dragon. Now, I know that took a while, so you can draw yours any way you want to, obviously, choosing any colors. You can use markers, you can use color pencil, you can draw it digitally. Man, you can even use crayon if you want to. Now, what I would do too, if you have a white ink pen after you put in your final colors, you can always take that white ink pen and go back and add some little white touches. And this can kind of add a lot to your drawing, just to kind of make it look like the light's reflecting off certain areas here. And maybe a little bit more right here too. Okay, so there's our finished drawing. So thanks for hanging out with Tripp's art class today, and we'll catch you next time.